And we're live. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening to whichever time zone you're in. You're listening to Talk Recovery Radio, coming to you live every Thursday right here. I'm with my co-host, Mr. Darren Gaylor. Hello, Darren.
What's going on, everybody? Right here.
Live
at my kitchen table.
And I'm at a concert. Like, that's where I am. I'm at a concert.
You're at last year's recovery day.
Yeah, that's last year's recovery day. Look at that crowd, everybody. That was huge. One of the biggest recovery day events in the world. That goes on also 2 blocks to the east, 2 blocks to the west, and 4 blocks down to the north south. I don't know my east west. I'm making that up, but you know what I mean. Like, it just went everywhere. And there's another street, Belmont Street, behind these little high rises here that had all the artisans and all that. So
it was massive.
Yeah, it was
and
massive.
Yeah. I know. I'll let you announce the performers for this year's.
Yeah.
I mean, fortunately, unfortunately, it has to be virtual situation. I would have loved to have seen these guys on stage with that type of crowd behind you. But whatever, man, we'll wait it out for next year.
Ladies and gentlemen, this year we have Macklemore in the house at Recovery Day. We got Mad Child in the house at Recovery Day, all taking place on September 5th. Virtually this year, but I love these Zoom meetings. We're doing Talk Recovery Radio on Zoom right now, Facebook Live Zoom, but Recovery Day is going to be on a full production stage. We've got 4 little mini stages on a sound stage. So we're going to have lots of activities going on. It's a 2-hour show taking place on September 5th. You can watch it live on recoverydaybc.ca's website, on Facebook pages, and a lot of engagement going to be taking place. So, make sure you get involved and stuff, but go to facebook.com/recoverydaybc and you'll get all the details. Say you're going to the event, and Macklemore, Mad Child, they're involved this year, so we're super excited about that. And everyone's like, oh, what are you going to do for Recovery Day? And I'm like, well, we're just going to make it bigger and better.
Yeah.
Now we have an international audience. I was looking at the Facebook metrics the other day, and we got people going like from across Canada, not just, the local community. And so we're excited that it's taking place. Darren right here is going to be the MC with Lizzie from Hilarapy.
Lizzie Allen?
And Lizzie Allen from Hilarapy. They do comedy and therapy. So Lizzie's great. So just check it out, recoverydaybc.ca. And I just thought, why not? We can, I can't share the screen. Oh, maybe I could. Here is the poster, everybody. Share.
Get your bubbles together and invite your close bubbles over. Have a little group watch. It's going to be interactive. There's going to be questions that we can have from those of you sitting at home watching for Macklemore and for Mad Child. Obviously we can't ask them every question, but you know what? That's going to be pretty cool to hear their personal stories.
Yes. So we're going to talk about Recovery Month Canada, what that is and what we need you to do. We're going to talk about the Recovery Capital Conference, what we need to do with that. And most importantly, latest news coming out of BC. Minister of Mental Health and Addictions, the Honorable Judy Darcy, announces 123 new addiction treatment beds for youth. So we're going to talk about that later on in the show. But we've got a guest waiting in the waiting room, and really excited. Her book title's awesome. She's awesome.
Hey,
and Darren, who are we talking recovery with today?
We get to talk recovery with the one and only Amy Dresner. Welcome to Talk Recovery, Amy.
Thanks, guys. Do you like my white snake hair? My bangs are too long and everyone's closed. So I was like, I got to just flip it out and do some kind of Farrah Fawcett stuff. So whatever.
That's too bad. I should have not showered 5 minutes ago because I had this amazing.
Oh my God, your Canadian accent is so strong.
It's all right, eh?
Oh, it's hot. Yeah, I'm into it.
Well, I'm feeling traumatized. I got no hair, so I guess I should.
Yeah, well, in a quarantine, you don't want hair. I'm telling you, you don't want hair
Yeah.
during the quarantine. It's a nightmare.
I
I'm
can
sorry, I
attest to
can't
that.
change my name. This is my podcast name, and this is how I log into Zoom. So
It's all
it's
good.
like free advertisement, you know what I
Exactly.
mean?
Yeah.
We can definitely
And
talk
this is
about that.
radio, so like no swearing, right? That's
No
like
swearing.
I
Yeah.
know. I put out a prayer on Facebook. I'm really a potty mouth, so I'm gonna do my best.
And I remember that actually from our last interview, like 2 years ago. We've had like, I don't know, maybe 1,000 guests so
And
far.
you remember me?
I remember it was Amy Dresner that we was like, oh yeah, she drops the bombs. And I actually just talked to Giuseppe. I said, maybe we don't air this show, because we usually air this show the following week on Vancouver Co-op Radio. And I'm like, let's just not air this show. Let's just give ourselves complete freedom. But we want to get you on the air. We want to
I want to be on the air, and I can behave. It's been a while, and I've taught myself. I've done enough radio interviews where I can behave.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And I guess if people want to hear you swear,
they can listen to my podcast where I swear a
drop it all
lot,
day long,
or every other podcast. Yeah.
Rehab Confidential. I'm sure you drop them all in your book as well.
Oh yeah.
All the language.
Yeah, but did you see that my book is being used as part of the syllabus at Fordham University graduate social work, to teach them about substance abuse treatment. It's part of the syllabus for the fall.
Yes.
I'm so honored. Like I cried. I mean, she was just like, it's so raw. I mean, that's how accurate the book is. And I'm sure they're like, most of your clients won't be this crazy and bad. However, you know what I mean? But I just feel like incredibly honored. I mean,
well, that's awesome.
Yeah.
The book is My Fair Junkie, a memoir of getting dirty and staying clean. And I mean, we've had so many conversations on this topic, like the whole what's wrong, like what is happening.
I know last time I think guys were freaking out when the book first came out, and you were like, we can't put junkie on the web. You guys were tripping. And I was like, well, that's the name. I don't Oh good, like a blanket is sitting in the back, just like hanging out there, just like, hey, what's up? Amy's just lays on the couch all the time. That's good. I didn't see that
Well,
one.
in Vancouver, I mean,
I want to come to Canada, but I was arrested for a felony. Can I come? It got dropped to a misdemeanor, and then it got discharged. Do I have to have my stuff totally cleared before I can come?
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, I think
you have to get, what do they call it?
Will one of you
Waivers.
guys marry me?
You have to
Can
get
one
a
of you guys marry
waiver.
me, and then I can come over? Like,
To all of our listeners, we got Amy Dresner. Put a shout out. She's available.
don't. Oh my God, I get so many weirdos. It's really frightening.
Language is so important, because like we had a bunch of doctors. This is powered by New West Recovery. There's 2 rehab centers behind this radio show, Lastor, Westminster House. Doctors will come once in a while and do a tour and stuff. And so we had these like 7 doctors from this doctor's school here in NBC. I won't name it.
Doctor's school. It's called a medical school.
Yeah.
Okay,
Well, they're doing training for addictions to be addiction specialists.
Oh, addictionology. Okay.
And so they sat here for like 5 hours, group, all that stuff, right? We got a pretty big population here, and so it was like time for Q&A, and I'm like, so does anybody have any questions right off the bat? And the very first question, these men and women are going to be like treating people who use drugs.
Right.
The very first question, I notice a lot of people just use the word addict around here. Why do they do that? And I just thought, that's your first freaking question. Like
you almost swore. You almost swore.
That's your first question. Like, you're going to be dealing with addicts every day, and you're wondering, like, where did you come from? And so you have this book, Junkie.
Well, I have a lot of thoughts about all of that, so we can talk about all of that. And I mean, I have gotten pushback for it, and I understand all the different sides of the argument, and so I'm willing to talk about it. And this is my take. My take is, having come from 12-step, you have to call yourself an addict or an alcoholic. You know what I mean? That's just the way it is. So, I mean, we had a guest on, and he was just like, in his bio was former junkie bank robber. So I'm not going to be like, former substance use disorder patient and bank robber. Like, that's just not as edgy and cool. I think SUD, I think that, I mean, my friend David Poses, who you guys should have on, who wrote what's his book? Great. The Kick. Sorry. He wrote The Kick. He was a heroin addict. And he's just like, until there's no more stigma around addiction, all language is going to be stigmatizing. Look at, what are you looking at? What are you looking at over there? You're going off over, looking over. I'm very, very, hello.
Hello, I'm here. I'm here.
So, right. So needing Coda, right? Every guy's like, oh, fuck that. Ooh, oh, shit. I think that you're allowed to call yourself whatever you want.
Yeah.
I think it's your story. For me, calling myself an addict or a junkie allowed me to own it and not have shame around it. I don't believe in putting lipstick on a pig. Substance use disorder sounds like something that, I've never ever heard someone say, I have substance use disorder. I've never heard someone say that. In 25 years in and out of rehabs and 12-step programs and psych wards, I've never heard someone say that. And it sounds like something you use for insurance. And it sounds a lot like a disorder, like, oh, I have a little bit of a problem. It's like, no, this thing can kill you. And I think that, I also think that, I wrote a piece about this for The Fix, and I talked to Dr. Howard Wetzman, who's an addictionologist and a psychiatrist, and who used to own Townsend Treatment Centers. And he is sober, and he's amazing. And I use him for all my science. He's amazing. And he's just like, even at his heaviest drinking, he didn't fit the criteria for alcohol use disorder. And he was just like, he said, it's not the name that's stigmatizing, it's our behavior when we're using. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like people were like, it's like, it's not going to change. It's like, well, Steven has substance use disorder. And it's like, and they're like, well, I don't care. He stole my car, like slept with my wife. And you know what I mean? Like,
it's
what I'm saying?
Raping and the pillaging.
Yeah. And it's like, it doesn't matter. It's our behavior. So I think that getting caught up in the language, and as a writer and a comic, like, I don't like the policing language. Like,
Well,
I don't like when other people who are sober call or like, you're a crackhead. Like a stranger called me a crackhead once, and I karate chopped them. I was on a lot of Effexor. I was not well, but I mean, I think that, I think we're going down the wrong thing. The problem is addiction. It's not the name of it. It's just, I don't know.
And then it separates into every single different substance and drug.
Oh, I know, which I completely disagree with.
Right?
First of all.
Like, now we're different than somebody who's
opiate users or an alcohol or cocaine or whatever. And I don't think that's true. I think we all need to come under the same tent of recovery, whether you're harm reduction or MAT or 12-step or like creepy faith-based recovery, or you can see how I feel about that. Or whatever. We need to all be like, yay, like you got sober doing like, yoga with goats. Excellent. Like who cares?
You pet a
all
horse?
are going for the same thing. And I don't think that abstinence is the only way. Like that's the only way for me. Like I abuse everything. Like I just quit vaping. Oh my God. I'm 19 days off. Wow. Oh yeah, bananas.
Bananas.
It was so, it's so bad.
So I just wanted to say that brings up how amazing it is that this institution of social work is actually using your book
with all the language, right?
Because rather than the BS DSM lingo and the just the professional articles and studies and
it's hard for like professors to get their scholarly stuff into a syllabus. Like I didn't realize what a big deal it was. My father was like, do they pay? Typical Jew, like, are they paying you? You need money. I'm like, well, it's an honor. He's like, honor doesn't pay the rent. I'm like, okay, all right. I think they're missing that this is a big deal. Okay.
No, because that's ultimately if you're helping, and this is what this.
Oh my God. I mean, yeah,
If
exactly.
you're helping somebody,
Yeah.
you're going to lose them at, like you say, substance use disorder. You're going to lose them as soon as the first word that makes you completely inexperienced and unrelatable to that individual.
Exactly.
You're done.
You're
So,
done. I agree.
I mean, we've had conversations. It's not that you have to go through addiction in order to help somebody.
Absolutely.
But you have to know the stuff, the real deal.
Yeah, you got to know the lingo. You've got to know the experiences. You've got to have the stomach for it. You can't be freaked out when they're like,
You got to know the
so hit
game.
me. Yeah, you got to know all of it. You got to know how manipulative we are. You got to know like, hey, we hit up on our neck. We got to, we do all kinds of crazy, stuff. And it's just like, so I think that, people disagree with me and they're like, substance abuse is like abuse and it sounds violent and it's like animal abuse or domestic violence. And I'm like, okay, like I can see that, but I guess, I don't know. I abused my body pretty badly.
Yeah.
And I abused the people around me when I was high and drunk. I mean, I was a nightmare. And I have epilepsy now from crystal meth. So I'm gonna have my teeth, and that's all that really matters in LA. Hey, but no, I mean, I have full blown epilepsy, and I've had it for 15 years, and I have to take a
direct
zillion
result
medications.
of crystal meth use.
Yeah. I have hyperactive lesions on my frontal lobe. So I think that, I think the language is less important than really us looking at and like, again, like you said, it separates everybody, and addiction is addiction. Your brain will, and what we see when people get sober is they get sober off their drug of choice. And then you see them go into gambling or sex or food or shopping or nicotine or whatever, gaming or whatever it is, because the main problem with most addicts is low dopamine tone. Yeah, it's in our brain. We want to escape our feelings and we want to feel good. And so the problem is dopamine. So we'll go to anything that gets us a dopamine rush, whether it's Tinder or attention or, there's ways to get dopamine that are healthy, like connection and service, but it's not like that of like shooting cocaine.
Kind, yeah.
Yeah, it's like a kind of like boop. You know what I mean? You're like, yay.
But after a little while of abstinence, of doing things good, not filling your brain and body with other chemicals, it's not required to have that level of a hit. Like when you're helping something or you're just doing something day to day, it just levels out. It's just.
I think that also, again, the thing is that there is a huge spectrum of addiction. Some people are over here and some of us are over here. And some of us can't use anything. I know people who shot heroin and can drink now. Okay, great for you. Like I can't even vape without giving myself nicotine poisoning. Like excellent, you know what I mean? I can't go on Tinder without one guy talking to me and being like, we're gonna get married, and just like spiraling out and like flipping out, or spending 8 hours looking for the perfect vintage tea. Like I've been tested for there's a genetic mutation called the MTHFR mutation, and it's basically it sounds like mother whatever we can't say on the radio. Look, I caught it, I'm so good. But anyway, you can get tested for it, and basically what that is a genetic it is like a genetic malfunction in the enzyme that creates that allows you to take folate from like green vegetables and make L-methylfolate, which is the building block for dopamine and serotonin. So if you have this, you can't create enough dopamine and serotonin. You're always at a low dopamine tone. You know what I mean? So you can take a supplement. So it's really a brain disease for a lot of people. And for other people, it's trauma. I mean, again, we don't know.
If you don't already have that genetic disposition, you're going to deplete it based on the chemicals you're assisting to create that dopamine, rewire.
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole thing, is when you blast your brain with lots of, heavy duty stuff, basically your brain goes, wow, this is way too much dopamine, and starts to close receptors down and shut it down or whatever. But usually your brain will respond, whatever. But most people talk about feeling weird and depressed before they picked up, which is the low dopamine tone thing I'm talking about.
Right.
So, I mean, I really liked vaping.
Find out about this, Amy.
Huh?
When did you hear of this concept
Because I geeked out on science. I mean,
After you were clean, like.
Yeah, I worked for an applied science writer named Amy Alcon for 6 years. I edited a bunch of her books. I got really into science. I started talking to Dr. Howard Wetzman, and then I started putting science in some of my pieces instead of just me swearing and like telling all my crazy thinking. And people really were interested in it. And like, I have science in the new piece about quitting vaping. And it's like, I don't know, to me, that's interesting. I don't know if other people are just like, ugh, but I mean, I don't like, it's not like a scholarly boring paper. I swear and talk about digging through the trash for the empty jewel pods. I mean, it's funny too, you know, and just
there's
sad.
There's a reality when you're kicking meth, heroin,
Oof.
you know, of years of use, that, you know, a simple little supplementation of an enzyme isn't going to get you to a place where you're loving life, feeling great.
No, you've got to do it all. You have to, there's no magic pill. You have to do it all. You have to exercise. You have to meditate. You have to help other people. I mean,
but that being said, we look like mental cases. We look like
I'm totally mental. I'm going through perimenopause and I'm on my period and I quit vaping. I'm in the quarantine. I'm crazy. And I know that. And there's nothing I can do about it. And I'm still looking for a man. Here I am. I've got great tits. No, it's like, no, I mean.
When you were new, Amy.
Which time?
Flooded with medication. Were you given and prescribed and diagnosed as blah, 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 blah?
Oh, I was that before I even picked up. When I got out of my marriage, I was on 6 psych meds. I've been diagnosed as bipolar and borderline and this and that. And now I have an enlarged liver from all those meds. And so you cannot diagnose someone when they're newly clean. Everyone's bananas. You cannot get a normal baseline.
Everybody's bipolar, schizophrenic.
Everyone's, you know, if you're coming out of an amphetamine psychosis, you have to wait a while. But they like to do that because then they have a diagnosis and then insurance pays. It's all connected. It's really kind of the whole system.
That's the sad business side of this.
Yeah, and it's like, you know, and then people are over medicated and they're like everyone in rehab's like on Seroquel, and Seroquel will just like make you fat, want sugar, and be sleepy. And it's like, I mean, unless you were like, that's your goal in life, like, you know, okay.
Yeah.
And there's a sad cycle up here in Vancouver. I'm sure it's the same. It's very similar in the States. Of just that, like that's people's experience of getting clean or recovery. Mm-hmm. It all falls under that, like getting well component, right. And they're just in a cycle.
Oh yeah, there's a whole thing. Yeah.
How did you get out? How did you get past that?
Well, first of all, when I went to treatment, they didn't take insurance because I'm old. So, you know, I think the point of insurance originally was like, hey, we're going to help people go to rehab as many times as they need to get clean. And this is great. What the bad part is that now it's a money-making machine, and there's more money in relapse than there is in recovery. Do you know what I mean? And and then there's body brokering, and then there's, you know, we can put in a Suboxone implant for 30 grand, and we can do a and it becomes a really dark, shady business. Not that there aren't legit places. You know what I mean? Right. There are legit places, but they're not the majority, as we've seen. Mm-hmm. Look at Batham. I mean, there's just tons of places that come out where they're like, you know, tying girls to the bed and like doing drugs. It's just like gross.
Yeah.
I think that how did I get out of the rehab cycle? Yeah. Well, I lost everything. I mean, I on December 25th of 2011. I was high on Oxycontin, which I don't even like. And that's the other thing. We'll do drugs we don't even like. It's like, well, I feel different, so this is good. You know what I mean? Like, we don't even care. Like, I like uppers, but I was like, well, okay. I'd been prescribed it for a shoulder injury. And that's a really slippery slope for us. When we have legitimate pain, right. I mean, addicts don't have to be in pain, but when we're given pain pills, it kind of lights something up. And if you're in an unhappy marriage, and that veil goes up between you and the world, and you're numb and you don't care what anyone thinks, you're kind of like, oh God,
that pill's not just taking care of the shoulder pain. It's
taking care of a lot of other pain.
Yeah, well, as we know, Oxy lied about a lot. Purdue lied a lot about like how long it lasted and how addictive it was and blah, 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 blah. So I was high on Oxy and like Four Loko or something really gross. I don't even know if you guys have that in there up there.
No, I don't know what that is.
Oh, it's like it was illegal. It's a malt liquor. It's like 5 beers and 4 cups of coffee in one can.
Oh,
I forget how much. It's like the highest alcohol content you can get, like at a 7-Eleven or a gas station. And it's like in flavors, like orange or grape. I mean, it's
Perfect for our youth.
It'll make you punch a baby. It makes you, everyone has a Four Loko story and you're like bananas. But I was like, this gets me to where I need to be. This is excellent.
Like,
And it's cheap.
Yeah. Other than
I wasn't like, oh, Cristal. That wasn't my use,
You said something really important there. You lost it all. And I want to focus on that for our viewers and listeners. Right now in Canada, there's a really big push, especially during COVID, to make sure people that use substances, people with substance use disorder, have a place to live. So they're in hotel rooms, paid for, all the drug paraphernalia is paid for. And now, like, I don't know about the States, but here you can actually call a phone number to a doctor who can prescribe you prescription heroin, prescription crystal meth, and it can get delivered to your hotel room.
Prescription crystal meth?
Prescription crystal meth.
I'm so moving there. Oh my God.
and this is all evidence based.
Okay, yeah. I mean, okay, this is the thing.
So losing it all, do you think you could have lost it all if you could dial the 1-800 number and get crystal meth delivered to you?
Yes. I think I still would have.
Okay.
It wasn't a problem of getting the drugs. That was never the problem. And I think that the fact is that dead people find no sobriety at all. So if people are using stuff from the streets that it's cut with fentanyl and weird stuff, they're going to die.
Yeah.
I shot coke once with this guy and he had a heart attack and I had like a 20-minute convulsion and we were like, well, that coke's no good. We were like, take that dealer out of your phone. My God, we were like, what the hell, So I think that the problem is some people are not capable of abstinence and don't want it. So how do we a lot of times harm reduction is a step towards abstinence. And sometimes also we have to accept that some people want to do drugs for the rest of their life and that's sort of okay too, Yeah. I wasn't functional. I had a lot of health problems. I wasn't functional. I tried to stab my ex-husband. I got arrested for a felony. I would end up in psych wards. I'd black out. Things disintegrated for me very, very, very quickly.
So you like to party is what you're saying.
But it wasn't even party. It was like self-medication. It was so bad. It was just horrible. Yeah. I'm shooting coke with epilepsy and I keep having seizures. So I wear a bike helmet instead of getting clean, like just bananas, So what happened for me, and lots of people lose it all and then are still on the street, you know what I mean? And homeless and still shooting up. So that's not always and some
I don't believe in bottoms either. I mean,
there's people, who roll in into an AA meeting on a court card and have no intention of ever getting sober and then get sober. So again, it's so different for everybody. So for me, I was left penniless in a psych ward. I was a really entitled princess. I had a trust fund and then I married a rich guy and I was like, I don't want to work. I'm a comic and and all this stuff. And you meet your destiny on the road, you go to avoid it. And so everything got pulled from me. And I ended up sweeping the streets on a chain gang, doing a year of domestic violence counseling. I went to a couple rehabs. I tried to kill myself a couple times because that's kind of my jam. Ended up in the psych ward and then ended up in a sober living for 2.5 years. But I had an epiphany. When I was sweeping the streets. And I just went, this could be the best thing that ever happened to you. Or it could be the worst thing that ever happened to you. And it's your decision. Like you're 42 years old and this is where your life is. And it's not a coincidence. So perhaps this is a blessing in disguise. And you have to finish it or you go to jail. So what if we reframed this and thought, this is going to be the thing that's going to burn off all of your entitlement and laziness and whatever. And are there lessons here? And I was like, yeah, there are lessons. There's humility and compassion and hard work and finishing what you start and I realized that everything that I thought would never happen to me happened to me. And I realized it's just as easy to do a job fully and well as it is to do it poorly. I'd always been very, very like lazy and kind of like, okay, that's good enough, and also being on a chain gang, like no one talked to us. Like I'd grown up in Beverly Hills, and like now like people are like, I'm a criminal, and people are like not talking to us. And so I got a lot of humility, and I was on Medi-Cal disability, and just I had a huge shift. And I wasn't like I'm gonna write a book or anything like that. And I don't know. Now I'm sober over 7.5 years. I think it's different for everyone. I think that if we knew what worked for everyone, we would have the recipe. But it's different for everybody.
That's it. I mean, I've never been able to say, because I can relate to that mental shift. Sometimes in a nice hotel room with a bunch of money in the bank, sometimes in the back alley. Like there's just it happens to us sometimes, but it's never the advice. I get calls, especially nowadays, all the time. I'm struggling. I don't know what to do, and it's like, well, you're just going to have to wait for yourself to have an epiphany is never the advice I give.
Of course.
Because that's it right there. They might be having it right there by phoning me.
Right.
And the next thing is like, what are your options? And that's where I feel I'm limited. And I don't know, a lot of people become limited at that point. What were your options at that point? Did you have
none?
No money, no people. So
my parents, and I had some
where
friends.
were your parents at this time?
My parents supported me. They were out of money. They were like, we'll pay for your sober living. And they were like, we'll pay for your car. And they were also like, if you don't have good news, like, don't call us. Like, they were also kind of just over it. They were like, we've been doing this for 25 years and, we're tired. We're emotionally good. My cat's knocking things over. Hey, Colonel.
So what do you say to parents that are being?
I think that the key to for me, the key is that it was action. Instead of listening to my feelings and like, I don't feel like this, or I want to get loaded, or I this, I that, I was like, I'm going to act like the person I want to be, no matter how I feel. And I was like, I took the action, and the action changed my feelings. You know what I mean?
Like a 42-year-old adult woman, like taking action, rather than the victim of life circumstances. And
I stopped feeling sorry for myself, and I went, okay, there's no net. It's all you now, honey. So what are you going to do?
You're listening to us on Talk Recovery Radio, CFRO 100.5 FM every week on Thursdays, here on Facebook and on the radio. And we're talking to Amy Dresner, author of My Fair Junkie, a memoir of getting dirty and staying clean. There's a picture of the book if you're watching us on Facebook. Amy, something I like to ask people that start doing blogs and writing books. So you're a newcomer in recovery. A lot of newcomers going to be listening to this show, watching us, and so forth. Everybody wants to become an interventionist. Everybody wants to become a counselor. Everybody wants to create an app. Everybody wants to do a blog. Everybody wants, my first week clean, I was going to write a mini series. You know what I mean? So how did you go from 42 years old, in and out of rehab, to stabilizing, getting sponsored, making friends, to being a successful author? And how did you deal with the anonymity, ego, gossip?
God, that's a lot of questions. Okay, so I have been a writer way before I was ever a drug addict. I'm the daughter of a writer. And so I was writing for magazines in college, and then I was writing for The Fix during the entire thing. So I was actually writing as it was going along, taking people on the ride with me. I'd always dreamt of writing a book. You call me a newcomer. I mean, I don't know. I'm 7.5 years. What do you have, like a 900 years?
Who, me?
Yeah.
A decade.
Right.
Almost.
Okay. Hypothetically,
I was,
I'm talking like when you were a year clean, 6 months clean, all that kind of stuff. Like the
Oh, I mean,
transition,
I
yeah.
just was writing like my struggles. That's it. That was it. I didn't, I hadn't, I had relapsed for so long. I didn't feel like I had the arc for a book. I hadn't landed. I hadn't found it. So there was no sort of like transformational thing. It was like, she just keeps relapsing and there's the book, it was like, and that's not interesting.
No.
So, I mean, it's just crazy stories. And I thought, how's that going to be helpful to people?
Like getting the tattoo of your clean date in your first 30 days.
Oh, right. What a mistake. What a rookie mistake that is. Woo! I've seen people do that. I'm like, oh, they're like, oh no, this is gonna keep me clean. I'm like, good luck with that. I was super humble. I mean, I was in sober living for 2.5 years. I was babysitting, I was writing articles, I had no net under me, and I just started off really small and just was like, I never was like, I'm going to be an interventionist or a counselor or work at a rehab. I mean, I get the excitement and wanting to do that. And you have like 6 months clean and you're like leading retreats, but I think it's quite dangerous actually, because, you're dealing with people. And if you do like breath work or inner child work and you're not really trained, some really gnarly memories can come up for people, like, like sexual abuse, childhood stuff, and they can totally freak out, and you're not going to be able to handle that kind of stuff. So I get people could say that about AA, but AA is also free. You know what I mean? And so you're not paying money to do it. And usually you have someone who, I mean, if you have a really good sponsor, you have someone who has a zillion years like my guy. And when I say about medications, he's like, honey, I'm not a doctor.
Yeah.
Doctor. Like,
Yeah.
And I mean, I guess that's what lacks a lot too when you talk about like recovery. Like people will argue all day long, 12-step works. You're either completely against it or
that makes me crazy. It's like, I think the fundamentalism is really off-putting. I think it's really dangerous and off-putting.
Yeah. But I mean, when I look back and as you mentioned, like, what's going on in the brain when you can sort of like stay clean long enough to grasp that concept and understand it. And look back and like, I wasn't really accessing the step work I was doing. I did amends with just in a ball of shame and guilt. Like I wasn't like forgiving myself. There wasn't self-love.
The steps changed my life. I'm not gonna lie, but I don't think it works for everybody. I don't think, just because it worked for me doesn't mean it's for everybody. And it's like, there is a lot, if you pull away some of the God stuff that puts a lot of people off, it's really cognitive behavioral therapy. It's really exactly rewiring your brain through neuroplasticity. If you repeat a contrary action over and over and over again, you create a new neural pathway in your brain, and that's the new you. Yeah. So there's actually science to why AA works. You know what I mean?
That's
even
my
like
point.
Feeling like connecting with other people and not feeling ashamed, that ups your dopamine. That's why it works. There's
the social aspect.
Oh, it's so important. That's why people are relapsing like crazy now.
I remember like more than actually writing the steps, but the first time through is all I was saying. I don't have like big revelations. It didn't feel like therapy. What felt like therapy was sitting in a meeting at the back, laughing my ass off, like convulsion. Like it was like that dopamine. It was going. Right. Oh my God, it works. Like we can.
Well, you were connecting to your people and you didn't feel ashamed. That's the dopamine rush. You're with other people and you don't feel less than, which in the other world, people don't get it. You tell them a story, and they are totally freaked out.
But
they don't tell someone else a program a story and they fall over laughing.
Don't you think that's the misconception? Like, because like that's what I say to people. It's like you go through the steps. I don't know if you're going to have this massive spiritual awakening and feel like you've gotten $1,000 worth of therapy. It's just going to introduce you into a social atmosphere, give you something to do, give you some focus, probably give you some insight. But I mean, it wasn't until I was more cognitively like grounded did I then start feeling the effects of the step.
There are people who just the camaraderie and the connection alone keeps them sober. Right. I think part of the problem why we're seeing an enormous amount of relapses and suicides and depression during the quarantine is because there's no in-person meetings. And so isolation lowers your dopamine. So I've been really struggling with depression during the quarantine. You know what I mean? I'm a writer who works from home. I live alone with my obnoxious cat, you know? Right. And so, but it's like, that connection is so important for us. We're tribal people, you know what I mean? And our disease takes us to that place of isolation naturally. And now we're being told to isolate. So then of course you're just like, you know, I mean, for me, what happened, the steps are not, he didn't create them. He pulled them from all the best religions and psychologies.
It's
meditation is not something new. Service is not something new. Doing an inventory or looking at your stuff, that's nothing new. Amends is nothing new.
Sharing your story with someone.
Yeah, none of that is anything new. It's just all in one thing. But the fact that there are all these weird fundamentalists who get really like, you're gonna die, it's this way or the only way. Like, you must believe in a higher and then that puts people off and they freak out.
Yeah.
It seems culty and weird.
Yeah, definitely. I remember doing. Have you ever heard of the boot camp steps, where you do the steps in like 8 days? Yeah, I did that once, and I really. I mean, the first 3 or 4 days, I was like, "This is great." By the fourth day, it's just like I stopped going on my knees. I don't need to go on my knees every hour and pray. Like I gotta go. And you find your own place in it. I mean, I'm in a 12-step fellowship as well. I do NA and so forth, and I just remember the Giuseppe that showed up, well, the first time he showed up to rehab was like 13, 14 years ago. Like that guy was crazy.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? And the stuff that I thought about, like I got caught smoking dope at my desk, which had a glass cubicle. So like I wasn't very bright, and I got called into the office and they're like, and the only thing I remember was I have human rights. You know what I mean?
Oh, you were defending yourself? You were defending yourself?
Yeah, like I mean, office jobs,
smoking dope at work,
smoking dope in a glass cubicle. Like I just
you were hotboxing yourself in your office.
What do you need, Giuseppe? I need blinds. I need blinds installed in my office.
In overtime.
Giuseppe, go to the bathroom. Like, come on.
It had gotten that bad. Like it just had gotten that bad.
You know what I mean? Like, hi.
Yeah, gotten
like
that bad.
You're so brazen. You're like, whatever.
Gotten that bad. Unbelievable. And so now I look back and it's like one of those things like over time, like Darren was saying a bit earlier too, it's that spiritual awakening epiphanies, just for the viewers that are listening and watching. It's like it could be, an instant, or it can be like over time.
Right,
like,
the educational variety. Right.
Holy smokes! Like that was real. Like taking my inventory. Like
that was everyone's like I was like walking with the hand of the universe. I was like, where are you? Because I cried for 3 days. I was like, that's not who I thought I was. I was horrified at who I was. And as Jack Grisham, who wrote the lead singer of TSOL, who wrote a great book about recovery, says, if you do a proper 4-step, you get to see yourself the way other people see you.
Yes.
And that is terrifying. And when I woke up to that, I was like, I didn't want to be that person. And I was crying. And my sponsor said, chill out, like we're just uncovering. And now you get to work and change on not being that person. And I'm not a big one that like, God's going to remove your character defects. Like he's got other stuff to do. That's like the addict's dream. You know what I mean? Like I'm going to lay here and someone's going to fix it for me. It's like, you've got to do the work. You've got to do the contrary action. You've got to act like a different person every day. You know what I mean? People are like, I keep praying for it to go away, but it keeps coming back. I'm like, I don't know why. Like,
you're lazy.
Yeah. Like do the work. Like that's the thing. Recovery is work. It's work every day. And some days I do better than others. Like during the quitting the smoking, whoa. Like day 11.
That's a good question. How did you overcome that? Because many
at this time.
And I know. Well, it wasn't.
Why?
It's not my first time. Believe me, of course. Do you know what the major cause of death among people in recovery is?
Nicotine.
Smoking-related illness. How terrifying is that?
Yeah, it's sad. Yeah,
it's because of course, it's gives you. It's not mind altering, but it's certainly a little bit mood altering, and it's part of the bonding, and it's very addictive, and it does give you a dopamine rush. You know,
Yeah.
I was spending a lot of money on Juul, and I started when my dad got cancer last year. I relapsed on nicotine, and uh, and of course he recovered, and I just continued, right? Not like he's fine now, so put it down. I just was like, and it just, you know, during the quarantine, I was vaping more and more and more and more, because it's not like a cigarette where there's like a beginning and an end. Also, even the way I smoked cigarettes, I would like do like 2 drags and it was done. And people are like, "Hi, junkie!" Like, that's terrifying. Like, oh my god, like,
Just
well,
squished filter.
yeah, like all drooly and
Heated
stuff. You know
right
what I
up
mean?
to
Yeah.
the
Oh
end.
yeah, the
Oh,
worst.
I remember that.
Right, just all drooly and like just like, and people are like, "Wow." Because I wasn't interested in like the smoking. I was interested in the rush.
You had a nicotine use disorder.
NUG. So I basically I started to see that I was upping my usage over and over and over, and I saw a lot of old behavior, like running out and then digging through the trash to get the cartridges and like hitting one last, and I was like, this is kind of gross. And then like those like early morning jaunts to 7-Eleven, jonesing to get a box of Juul pods, and I just was like, this is really old behavior, and I don't like feeling like be in the car and I don't have it. And I was like, I don't want to be. And also I was having chest pain. And I just was like, it's over, dude. Like, you put a bead up your nose, you don't get to play with beads anymore. You're done. I almost gave myself nicotine poisoning one night, and I was just like, you're done, dude. You're done. And so I just pulled it.
It brings clear attention to the idea of addiction just being this one thing. However, it sort of takes.
That's what I think is so important for us to get behind.
Like, if we focus on heroin, then of course smoking a doobie and smoking cigarettes is better than. But even in the same context, like, it's continually harm reduction. I mean, we're always going to sort of find ourselves the next unmanageable thing.
Right. Completely.
And if we have a form of therapy or recovery or getting well, like, are you sort of looking at quitting nicotine in the same way now, like accessing the steps, or, you know?
No, I'm not going to NA. I mean, Nicotine Anonymous, like, people want me, and I'm just like, but
you're just motivated.
I got a lot. I outed myself online, and so I would be accountable. It's not the first time I've done it. And the withdrawal was so gnarly.
Really?
Oh, it's not like quitting smoking. It's not like you're irritable. Like, for me, I'm ill. Like, I get ill for the first 3 days. I'm like, every time it's happened, and I just took it off the table as an option. And so I'm only like, not even 3 weeks in, and I hope.
It's that part of like, now what do you do with your hands?
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. I woke up one morning and I'm like, can't wait to vape. And I was like, that's what you're waking up for? Like, get a life, girl. Like, that's some pathetic. Yeah. I was like, can't wait to drink my yerba mate and Juul. And I was like, that is some pathetic crap. Like, you need to like get a hobby, girl. Like, but I just didn't. So I just pulled it, and people were really supportive, and they were like, it's so hard and it's worth it, and keep going. And other people were inspired by me. They're like, oh my God, now I'm on day 2. And I was like, oh great. Now everyone's like, you're an inspiration, don't stop. And I'm like, ugh.
So now that service to other part comes into play.
Yeah. I mean, I just honestly, it felt really prison-y. It just felt like that prison again. And I was like, and that same behavior. And I was like,
time to man up again.
It's hard to vape in a mask too.
Oh yeah. Well,
like,
one day they'll create a mask for that. We're coming close to the end of the show. This has been great, Amy. Thank you for being
Sorry, I
on
got
the
really
show.
hyper and talked a lot.
No, it's all good. I wanted to touch on I read that your book is currently being considered for a TV series.
In development, yes.
In development, so that's amazing.
Exciting, yeah.
Congratulations on that. And what's any goals for any new books coming up?
Yeah, I mean, I want to write a second book that's not the focus of getting sober, which is more on the focus of life once you've gotten sober, because like I missed 25 years. And so now here I am, and like I'm 50, and it's like, there's so much I don't know how to do. Like I went to Jiffy Lube and I was like, hey, I haven't changed my oil in 7 years, guys. And they were like, oh my God.
Where have you been?
Yeah.
I'm not going to comment on that.
Yeah, they were like, are you serious? And I was like, but I can make you a really nice crack bong out of a Mountain Dew bottle with like, and it was like, I don't know how to do my taxes. I can't cook. Like all that time that I was supposed to be growing up and adulting, now all of a sudden I've come out of like a time capsule, and my career's not where it could have been. But I mean, that's just a head game you can play with yourself. I don't have a bunch of skills that I should have had because I was too busy getting high and trying to kill myself for 25 years. So I want to talk about, but what did make me grow up really quickly is my father's cancer and my mother's dementia. I became her,
caregiver.
Well, no, she lives in Albuquerque, but I became her power of attorney. I'm in charge of everything. And so, again, you meet your destiny on the road you go to avoid it. So everything I was like, I don't want responsibility. And the universe was like, okay, honey, here. So, you have to grow up. For me, that's a huge part of recovery is growing up and not making it about you and being of service. But the big thing is growing up.
Completely agree.
Right? It's gnarly.
There's a pamphlet in Narcotics Anonymous. If you're listening, Google it. It's called the Triangle of Self-Obsession, and the very last sentence is, grow up. Pretty much, what have you done? But it's all about growing up. It's just right to it.
We're really immature. I mean, we're really immature, and that's part of the illness. Is I don't want to feel my feelings. I don't want to have responsibility. I want to duck out. I want the easy way. And there is no easy way to anything, to a book, to a career, to a relationship, to
there
anything.
isn't even an easy way to using. I mean, it's all just crazy.
Well, now it's like terrifying.
Yeah.
I mean, I know 2 people that have died in the last 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And it's just, it just breaks my heart. And it's going to be more and more and more. And I just feel, really like, I don't know why I'm alive. I don't know how I got it or why I got it. I don't think you have to have the willingness. I think you just have to take the action, and sometimes the willingness follows.
I wasn't willing when I came.
What do we do? Because I relate to that feeling, and especially lately in this, COVID days, this uselessness, like not being able to go to meetings and meet people where they are. Like the phone has never been such a more distant, feeling lately. And like, not only just to take care of yourself and ourselves during this, like what do you do? What do you do to make it feel like, you're not alone? Are you online? Are you communicating?
Yeah, I run a group for a sobriety support group called TLC, which is not 12-step, which is just kind of all modalities are welcome. And it's like, that's really cool. It's kind of all love. It's like 240 people and whatever. And, my sponsor's like, awesome, love it. Like, my sponsor is very like, hey, you get sober through Scientology? Yay! He doesn't care. And he's like 30 years sober. He's just like, yay, like whatever. It's a way to be of service. I answer a lot of Instagram messages where people are really struggling right now, where they're drinking or using and they're so lonely and they're freaked out about money. And it's really sad, man. And it's like, I just try and be like loving and go, you can do this, and this is what I would suggest, and I'm not a therapist and I'm not a doctor, and they're just like thrilled that I even wrote back. They're like, oh my God, you wrote me back. And it's like, but it's like how it takes 2 minutes to acknowledge someone so that they know that they matter. It takes a lot of balls to reach out to someone you don't know and go, your book changed my life, and like I'm really struggling and I just wanted to say thank you. 2 minutes.
Yeah.
To just go, thank you. And thank you for taking the time.
Yeah,
and I'm
you
so
matter.
sorry you're struggling. I get it. I don't know. I think that you give service in any way you can. Even being nice to the people at the grocery store. I mean, God. just having compassion right now.
Yeah.
Your website, your Instagram, what are your handles?
Amy Dresner on Twitter, Amy Dresner on Facebook, Amy Dresner on Instagram. You can check out my new podcast called Rehab Confidential with Joe Schrank. It's pretty wild.
We'll definitely
A
share
lot of
that
swearing.
on our, so, a lot of swearing.
A lot of really great guests. He's a social worker and an interventionist, and so it's an interesting duo, and we have some really fascinating guests. And we look at drug policy, and we look at harm reduction, and we look at, we cover every single voice. We had a sober porn star on. We had a transgender woman in recovery. Like we're all about every voice. So it's been really fun and a lot more work than I expected, as I'm sure you guys know, right? You're like, let's just start a podcast. And now I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah. Definitely. The first year, I was like, I'm never doing that again. I'm never doing that again.
Right,
I'm never doing that again.
Yeah, it's like having a child, and then you're like, oh, now I am in this forever. We're only 2 months in, and we're like,
well, it becomes bigger than ourselves. Like I remember when this thing hit and we couldn't go to the radio station anymore, and it just was like, oh sweet, I get a break. You know what I mean? Like it kind of that's what I first thought. Like I don't have to drive downtown.
How'd that work out for you?
But then it felt like something really, really important was missing.
It's so important right now. Can I tell you? I mean, this is the connection. This kind of stuff is the glue for us.
Yeah.
For our people, we're really,
there's a responsibility to it as well, and so forth.
To make other people laugh and be of service and bring answers, and like, I don't know. Zoom meetings for me are just not the same. I just feel like it's like the Brady Bunch. Like
I'm a workaholic, so Zoom meetings are working well for me because I sit at my desk at night, and then they're like, Giuseppe, would you like to share? And I'm like, fuck. Oops.
No! Oh!
Him the whole time. How dare you? I wanted to drop bombs all show.
Yeah, I've been so good, Giuseppe. I've been so good.
Sorry, everybody.
No, I think there's also Zoom fatigue now. People feel Zoom fatigue, and then there's been a lot of Zoom bombing where people like come in and then like someone like tried to light themselves on fire, pour booze on themselves, or they're like, I want a drink, or they do weird sexual stuff like rogue penises flying.
My home group is an LGBT meeting, and somebody Zoom bombed our home group, and we're like, "Is that all you got?" Like, so we just played with.
Best, man.
I'm like
totally unfazed.
We can find way better stuff than this.
Totally unfazed.
So we just
whatever.
worked with it. It was an awesome
girl.
couple of minutes. Yeah. Is that it?
Yeah, the straight meetings, they're like, they totally, go away. This is recovery. That's not funny. Like everyone freaks out. Like,
we're
out.
like, hello.
Yeah, of course. I'll just feel like, whatever, queen.
You're listening to Talk Recovery Radio. Thanks, everybody. We're wrapping up in a couple of minutes here.
Oh, I've had so much fun. I haven't felt happy in days since I quit the Jewel. Don't go away.
No, well, we
so needy. Like, I'm so needy. I'm so needy. Like, right?
It's like I'm getting out of the house. Oh, wait a minute.
Oh my God, I love you guys. Please don't leave. Right? Total attachment disorder. Like, oh no. I know, it's terrible. It's really bad. That's the other thing. I think it's really important to be real right now. That's the thing that I've done on my Instagram. I don't just like, hey, I'm doing great. I'm like, hey, I've been in bed for 3 days and haven't washed my fucking hair. Wash my hair. Like, but I'm still sober. Like, I'm depressed as hell and lonely as hell, and I'm still sober, guys. And you can push through this. And it's like, just showing the reality. I think people need to know. I think that's what's inspirational, is when people are struggling and showing the real stuff, not, here I am, like totally photoshopped and like perfect in my like Hawaiian background and like blah, blah. Like, we don't need that. We don't need inspirational quotes. We need humor and reality so people don't feel alone.
And especially if you're in that moment of having an epiphany, that somebody else doing that, being real, is like it's that moment where you might be able to like connect and get out.
Exactly. And then connection's exactly it. And not feeling like you have to be like levitate to get this thing. You can still be, an a-hole. You can still be funny, and you can still be obnoxious, and you're still gonna have bad days. It's not like you get sober and it's sparkles and unicorns. It's still a struggle.
A bit better, like I've just gotten a bit better. I'm still a lot of the defective parts. I don't know. I didn't have the relationship with the God that completely removed them.
I didn't either. He was like, whatever, you're Jewish, bye. He was just like.
So yeah, I definitely bounced off of your energy during this show. I'm feeling super.
You guys
hyped.
got me to wash my hair and put a little makeup on.
Yeah.
You look fantastic.
So, and I even told my real age.
50.
It's pretty good. Hey, this is pretty good. I should look like an Apple doll, guys. Come on. I mean, for the amount of crystal meth I smoked and the amount of cocaine I shot in my neck, I should look 185 years old.
Yeah.
We're resilient
like,
people.
God's like, I'm gonna make you look young, but you're still gonna be insane. And I'm like, okay, cool.
That's a match. That is a
Whatever.
match.
Like, whatever. It's LA. Anyway, you guys made me smile and laugh, and I'm going to be of service. I'm going to take my friend's dog all the way to Malibu to the vet. He's having something, and so I'll get out of the house and go for a long, nice drive today.
Nice.
And anyway, I've had such a great time.
Thanks for being on the show. To all our listeners, viewers, don't forget, go to recoverymonthcanada.ca, sign the petition, send your member of parliament that email. We got to make September officially Recovery Month, so we need your support. And see you at Recovery Day. And Darren, good to see you.
Thanks again, Amy Dresner, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you so much.
And we'll talk to you like, I don't know,
when your new book comes out.
Cycle with our show, because it's just too much.
Okay.
Yeah, I would love to come back and talk about even just topics if you guys want. We had so much to, I had so much to say, and it was like, I mean, there's lots to talk about. So anyway,
All
thanks,
right.
guys.
Take care, Amy. Have a good one. Bye, Darren.
Bye.
Bye, everybody. Thanks for listening.
Thanks, guys.